Imagine a world where everyone is a flat earther and any round earther was burned alive, tortured, and hunted like animals. Well, the way the internet is headed, that may just actually happen, but Orb Movements of the Earth is a look into our future, where we see what it's like to lead a revolution against a government to prove the Earth is not the center of the universe. And don't get me wrong, I understand this sounds boring as hell, but trust me, this anime is not your typical pretentious, smart anime. It's filled with brutal fights, eerie torture scenes, and unlike most anime, it's a story that spans literal decades. And that has all culminated into something that is seriously, undoubtedly an anime of the year contender. And if you don't want to listen to an idiot like me, take it from these guys.
God, Orb is so fucking good.
I think Orb is more entertaining than Dan.
Now I understand there's gonna be glazing accusations, but you gotta understand, an anime this good should be getting way more attention. So I think it's time we get into this story. So let's go back in time to a day and age where people believed the Earth was the center of the universe, and this was a notion established by the church, who ran everything from the government to the police to the schools. And anyone who questioned this belief, they were immediately labeled a heretic who believed in heliocentrism, which basically means you think the sun is the center of the universe. And if they caught you researching this blasphemy, this disgusting idea of the sun, they would, they would burn you alive, torture you, threaten your family, all in the name of God. Now, I know this sounds like a boring as shit watch paint try anime where we have a super smart MC who can smell the particles in your ass and understand your anatomy, or the other kind of smart anime where it's all about ambiance and immersion. Where you're sitting there after 12 episodes, you finally decide to ask yourself, what the fuck is the plot of this show? But that is not even remotely what Orb is. This concept is treated more like Death Note meets Attack on Titan, where the villains, or the church for this matter, will actually feel like they have a real chance. They aren't just mindless goons. We have vicious inquisitors that hunt down anyone that question the church. And our heroes are not just individuals, but a whole movement of people working together. And they're on the back foot the entire series. It was like eerily reminiscent to The Empire Strikes Back. Luke, I am a flat earther. And unlike in the modern day where we can question the government all the time and let's be honest, if our punishment was being burned alive while your friends and family get tortured, we wouldn't question our government. We would all start rooting for our presidents and their crazy arguments all the time. I wouldn't be surprised if we see them have a whole waifu debate.
Donnie, you dumbass. Rem is clearly the best waifu. She's the most caring. Obama, shut the fuck up. You only like Rem because nobody remembers her. Just like your presidency.
Okay, likes, and I'll make a whole video like this. And if you still think this is some Sid the Science Kid, Bill Nye the Science Guy BS, the anime immediately eliminates those accusations, opening up with an inquisitor torturing a heretic who dared to question if the Earth was the center of the universe, where the inquisitor rips apart every nail slowly. And just when the round earther gets to the end, the inquisitor looks at him and tells him, "It's all good, bro. We can just wait for them to grow back again and then I'll pick them all out again. Isn't that great?" Yeah, this is nowhere near the worst torture scene. We see tongues get ripped out, and it's not even exclusive to men. It don't matter if you're a kid or a woman. Shit, they'd probably do it to a dog if they had to. If you even suggest going at the church, they rip you apart, only for you to survive and be burned alive in the end. Yay! If we got any flat earthers in here, what you think about that conviction, eh? How many nails you about to lose to call cap on Christopher Columbus, eh? But I figure you're about to get to the point where you think you've heard enough, you've made up your mind, but I haven't told you the most important part of this whole story, and what makes Orb stand out above everything else. Just so you know, this is not a major spoiler, but it is important. What I'm about to say is why everyone who watches Orb will not shut the fuck up about it, and that's the fact that Orb does not have a main character. You heard me right. There's no protagonist in Orb, and this is not some gimmick. This is a 24 episode Netflix produced banger that went with a big, massive speedwagon sized cock wrist and decided to not have a main character. And it is fucking awesome. The only anchor to the story is the story. The mission to prove the Earth isn't the center of the universe. It's something that started before the anime began, and I'm sure will continue long after it ends. Each storyline feeling like they could lead to their own anime. Take the first one. We see a young boy encounter a heretic for the first time, be introduced to the idea of heliocentrism by a man who has dedicated his whole life to the cause, where on his last legs he introduces him to a single crate that was hidden in the mountains that had all of the research on the topic. Then the boy takes that information, learns from it, and contributes his own findings, his own research, that then gets passed on to another set of characters that interpret that information, which leads them to go crazy on research and push it even further. And then when that gets passed down, a whole movement is formed off these ideas. But all of these steps face their own bumps and tribulations. The church is constantly trying to cut the head off this long snake before it gets too big to manage. And between close calls, lying, and characters having to take huge risks, and everything that they've built to that that point, all the lives lost, the sacrifices made, it could all go down the drain. This is something that seems dramatic. I get it, we're on YouTube and this guy's talking about the Earth. But it's not about just saying the Earth is the center of the universe. It's about so much more. It's about the right to free thought, the right to an idea. And I know I sound like everything we read in sophomore year of high school. We got Walt Whitman over here. Well, are you gonna make us write a 5-paragraph argumentative essay on how this relates to the modern world? Jesus Christ, those essays suck. But to be honest with you, it is like all of those works, but actually good and entertaining. It isn't telling the themes in some meta way where it feels like the writer got a stick stuck 10 feet up their ass while telling some pretentious fucking bullshit virtue signaling piece with a bunch of real world connections that are plastered all over your face. It's got none of that. All the story tries to prove is the importance of an idea while incorporating this mystery and investigation aspect, as well as proper fights, which we will have to dive into later because they are nothing like we've seen in anime. But first, you guys got to understand the characters more, because in a series without a main character, of course, the characters we do get are super important, but these characters deliver. We go from a smart kid with all the potential in the world deciding he wants to stand up to the government. Then we see this guy who's basically a mercenary but finally sees a movement to join, to have a life that matters. Then we jump to a coward that teams up with a smart ass priest that is only really interested in the idea because of his pride and ego. Then we have her, and like literally like dead ass, without spoiling anything, she has some of the best scenes I've seen in anime in the past decades, and I'm being so serious. If you know, you know. Even recently, we get someone joining the movement because they're a capitalist and want to make money. And hey, we're all capitalists here at the end of the day. And my capitalist sorry ass wants to let you know I have a Patreon, and I'm going to be dropping another Orb video on here for free where we dive into it a lot more. So go check it out, as well as the other content and tier list there. But jumping back to the characters that are not all capitalists, they are also not all heroes. All of their goals are different. They are not some happy-go-lucky, annoying fuck that the story is trying to push onto you. Like shit, half of them aren't even good people. And I think everyone that watches this will have a different favorite character. But I just talked about the people on the supposed right side of the movement. I think it's about time we talk about the villains.
It's got one of, I think, the best villain in anime right now.
Some of the best character writing I've seen in a long time in anime, for sure.
It's been a very, very long time since a new anime has created a villain this iconic. And I know it's hard to say iconic when no one has watched Orb, but we'll expel my frustration on that later. But unlike the good guys, this dude is evil as shit. He murders and kills without second thought. Between the dryness in his voice and the eerie gaze, and although I can't spoil anything, there's moments where you realize, man, this dude really probably could have used some Walt Whitman books, but I would legitimately bet my right nut that he is one of the best villains you will ever see. But at this point, we've been through the characters, we've been through the premise. I think it's about time we get through the fights in production, because they really are unlike anything you've ever seen. And I think a lot of anime are going to be copying this style. I'm sure you can tell by now, there's a couple things about the production in this anime that are strange, but also really unique. But before we jump into that, you guys need to understand the pre-production first. Because for an unknown anime to drop and be 24 episodes, it's pretty wild. So Orb's original source material is a pretty short manga that dropped in December 2020, and the manga is not popular at all. This is a hidden gem in every sense of the word. But this is also a Studio Madhouse production. You know, the guys between Death Note, The One Punch Man, Hunter x Hunter, Monster, Frieren, Nana, these guys, they know their shit. But as we know, with MAPPA and their production of Hell's Paradise, these larger studios don't treat every project the same. And I feel like this has to do with a serious shift in anime in the past few years. We've entered an era where the most popular shows are either super fun, high action, crazy, balls to the wall, TikTok brained out stories. Do not get me wrong, those are awesome. And the other kind of popular show right now are fantasy anime with absolutely ridiculous productions like Frieren, Mushoku Tensei, ReZero, Danchimeshi. And the point I'm trying to make is new original stories like Orb that have no sequel potential, no TikTok potential, and source material that was not very popular, they're just not getting made. So with that being said, I'm very, very surprised that this studio got greenlit, because the production team, albeit probably small, they created something special because they killed it, man. These type of fights are so unique and awesome. These battles take place with swords and knives, but there's not a bunch of sharp cuts or jumping around. We get full frames where you can see that there's tactics and even individual blade battles where they're pushing and shoving each other. And I don't know if the producers or capitalists that funded this gave a shit, but the people who made it did. And what adds to the fights is also everything we talked about earlier. We are most of the time just meeting these characters and they're getting shoved in these intense situations, and most of the time there's massive stakes. But let's jump to the non-fight scenes, and it's very similar notes: mindful cuts, creative effects, small details like finger cuts, clothing getting damaged, while the sounds correlate with sharp changes of colors, symbolizing the changing of the era. The OST is also pretty good too. Whoever made this really cared and made the most of their budget, and I think we can all look at this and know the art style is not crazy, the literal animation isn't insane, but it was treated with a level of care that even top studios don't have for their anime. Orb is one of the few times where I would say that watching it feels more like an experience, a real test of the times where you can challenge your taste and see if you can take a break from the horny rom-com, shitty isekai, and insane fights and watch something that will actually make you feel something for once, and Orb does just that. And if this anime's main themes really are ideas, I might as well leave you with an idea, and my main idea for you is to check out this video on an anime that will make you a feminist. Make sure you leave a like, subscribe, and don't forget, we're just gonna start it, we're gonna stay consistent, and I will see you in the next video.